So let's call the meeting to order. So is Carla here?
I'm here.
Ben is also here. So is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
I second. All in favor?
Aye.
Perfect. All right, let's go on to 2A, the organizational chart.
So I will start off by just saying this is something that we've been working on, just being able to have a chart so people know who reports to who or where the flow of communication should go to. So Allison's going to go into more detail on that.
So in board docs, you have two copies. One is the last org chart that Dr. Moser did before he left. And so on that one, you can still see that Director of Educational Services position was still on there. And then the updated one is the one that I worked with Karen on. And basically that was because we now have a Director of Student Services and Special Ed. So we can put that person on the org chart, which is very exciting. And then just to try to clear up some flow. So the biggest thing that you'll notice is there are some dotted lines. And obviously we'll have to go through with staff and explain what that means. But really what it shows is that the top is exactly the same. Nothing's changed. There's the community, the school board, the superintendent. That first row is pretty much identical as far as Director of Teaching and Learning, and then principals, and then the executive assistant, which would be Karen. We've got the Director of Special Ed and Student Services role and the Director of Operations. Do you guys want me to share this? I just thought of that.
No, I have it up, but yeah,
Okay.
wait, sorry, Carla.
I have it up.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe just for the. Okay, so sorry. Just want to make sure you guys were looking at it. And so then the two big changes are that Director of Student Services Special Ed, and then the Jim's role being put together with Director of Business and Operations. But then really what it shows is that, you know, Teaching and Learning has a secretary. I have a secretary. Lindsay's got her benefits and payroll and accounts payable, so, and custodians. So those are all direct reports. And then everybody else, it's a little different because they're in buildings. So that's why you see the dotted lines. So while student services team and special ed team and school psychs have the arrow directly to their principals, that's just because that's where they are day to day. So obviously that's the person that's going to see them the most when it comes to like an evaluation process or coaching or feedback or support. They're going to be there right there in the same building. But then of course, now we have a director who can have those regularly scheduled meetings with the team once or twice a month, who can provide professional development for the team, who can just be another source of expertise and information for the team, and who can support the principals in that evaluation process. And the reason it's not, they wouldn't directly evaluate them is just because they don't have that day-to-day knowledge of their work in the building, the way that a building principal would. So that would be a collaboration, similar to what you see with Teaching and Learning, and the dotted line to our GT coordinator, our EL coordinator, and our literacy and math coaches and interventionists. So same kind of relationship where there's that additional support, professional development, those regular check-in meetings, but they wouldn't be like their direct evaluator because they're just not there on a day-to-day basis in the same way. So that would be a collaboration. Our secretaries and health room would be supported by our district nurse. And then our district nurse would also have support from that student services side of the role. So you've got, and we're actually even having a conversation, one potential slight tweak that could happen before I bring it to the full board is I'm talking with Jenica around EL coordinator and whether or not that should go Teaching and Learning or that should go student services. So that's kind of a continued, it's done differently in different districts. But yeah, so that's the updated org chart. Obviously, wanted to get your feedback here first in finance and personnel, and then bring it to the full board for additional feedback at the end of the month.
So I have a couple questions.
Absolutely.
I noticed the district nurse doesn't have a direct report red line.
Yeah, and that is something that I realized I didn't put on there. We're thinking about, and this is open for discussion. I'd love to hear your perspective. Some of our preliminary discussions have been around the district nurse and Denise perhaps being the only direct reports to the director because they are district wide versus being housed in one building. So
And
I'm
that's
kind
the
of
second
looking for
question.
feedback on that. Yeah.
Yeah, because I have worried about those positions, and I actually don't know how the coach, coordinator, interventionist team is distributed. If they're working in both schoolhouses, any position that works in both schoolhouses and then reports to principals is very challenging.
Agree.
If you're expected to be in, those occasions when you might be expected to be in two places at one time and the principals don't have the time to coordinate. Right. So
Absolutely.
I worry about that sort of situation.
And I think for the most part, the coaches and interventionists do have a home base. So they're primarily in one space, but I absolutely agree with you, which is kind of why the social worker and the nurse seem to make sense. Yeah. And we even talked about, so like a layer behind this chart would be who approves vacation days, who approves 6 days, right? Those little things. So if you're district wide, it would make sense for that to go directly to Kelly, who could then say to both principals, hey, so-and-so's out today, versus if they're just doing it, you know what I mean, with a principal, like you said, it can get a little.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I would support that
Okay.
change of the direct report.
Okay. And I'll talk offline with Jenica too, to see if there are any coaches that are more split, but I think they're primarily.
I don't know who on this call was around when the last org chart came out.
Ben would have been, right?
Were you here when that?
Last year.
Yeah, the org charts seem to cause heartburn. For
The
some
bigger
members of
reason that
Basically, they're just useful in the sense that you know who you're reporting to.
Right.
And then we talked about
teachers don't care about this stuff because they're actually teaching all day and they know that they report to the principal. So I mean, this really isn't affecting day-to-day stuff. This is just kind of overarching, like, I guess again, who are you reporting to? And every teacher reports to the principal. So that's that's what they care, or at least that's what I cared about when I was a teacher. So.
But some of those, like you're saying, Carl, even thinking now more about OT, PT, like digging into some of those to see district wide, and then really been the next step. The more important piece we want to get to is if we have this, then we can say, okay, so if you have questions about X, here's where you can go. Here's the department where you can get that help. And we haven't had this structure in order to build that next level of just so people know who to go for what.
Carla, are you saying this? You're concerned that the district nurse doesn't report to anyone, or no one reports to the district nurse?
Sorry, I'm randomly opening the wrong screens. That the district nurse isn't identified as reporting to anyone.
Yeah, she should have her red line.
Who would even have the expertise to be a direct report to or for the nurse?
That'd be student services and special ed. There's so much in student services. There's nursing services, 504 plans, open enrollment. There are a million things in student services. Yeah. So that's another piece we could then layer and build in there, right? So people know who to go to if they have an OE question or a 504.
This person would know how to be a nurse?
No.
Well, no, so I'm just, yeah, so like,
everybody that supervises hasn't done every single job that's underneath them.
Okay. But you still need someone who's gonna,
right.
You need someone who is gonna evaluate performance, approve for leave.
Yeah. I guess I'm surprised that, there isn't a healthcare, something that like does this through DPI or something like that.
Well, and the student services director would definitely have DPI resources. Absolutely.
So is there like a healthcare person that's actually licensed as a nurse or something else that in DPI?
So I think that's where you also have the North Shore Health Department as well. That's a really big resource for that.
There's DPI nursing, Department of Nursing too.
So, okay. Can that be a direct report, or is that, or we're talking just in school?
District, yeah. Our direct reports are all the school board, Ben. Also, you guys maybe go to DPI, I don't know.
So yeah, what's in my mind is like, what kind of questions are community members gonna ask?
Yep.
building and grounds is now under Director of Business and Operations, right? So that's why the
Yep.
custodians are there.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is all pretty standard.
Looks good to me.
So I'll dig into like some of those other potential district-wide positions and make those updates.
Yep.
Okay,
Looks good. Thank you.
Perfect.
step
Do we go
one.
on to 2B?
I believe that's the co-curricular, right?
Yep.
So I've been talking with Mike Birmingham, our director of athletics, and he's also responsible for all of our co-curricular activities. And we are going to be bringing the updated co-curricular month to the next board meeting for approval. The one piece that we do want to add is an additional athletic director that would partner with him, Ryan Krager from Parkway. Reason being is we're trying to figure out a way to collaborate more with Parkway. A lot of the times our co-curricular activities are really geared towards Glen Hills. And so we're trying to come up with some more ways to partner with Parkway and do more to have Parkway staff involved. And Ryan had expressed interest in the position, and I talked it over with Mr. Birmingham, and he was on board with it and very excited. And just because it's a nice balance and support for him. And when I was talking with him, like eventually when he retires, it would be nice to have like a transition, somebody else that's been doing it for a while. But I just wanted to bring that up just to show that we're going to have that added position in the list.
Okay, so that's what we're gonna get a formal write-up at some point.
Yep, so you'll have all of the stipends, and then Ryan's will be in there. And the reason also that
I mean,
we
this
wanted to
is
do it.
a description.
Yeah, it's the same as Mike's. I've been trying to find like a formal description, but I'll have something written up for it.
Okay, perfect.
So is this, ask my ignorant questions. Mike has an official title.
Yeah, he's the athletic director. Yep.
That's his full-time position now. He teaches
Well,
too.
no, he's still a teacher. He just does
That's
it.
an extra. He
Yeah.
gets a stipend for doing that.
Mhm.
Okay, so you're talking about creating a similar stipend and role for Mike at Parkway or Ryan.
For
So-
Ryan.
okay.
Yeah,
Got it.
I don't know the amount for sure, just because I had a conversation with Mike, so I will come up with one that would be collateral to, like, it would be comparable to Mike's, and make sure that it falls in line with that. And I also was able to pull all the co-curricular pay for all of our area districts as well. So just trying to get that a little bit more mainstreamed and seeing where other districts are paying for that position.
A lot of those districts, I don't know, it feels like a lot of districts underpay for that.
Yeah, we are definitely the highest paid.
Okay.
So.
I like being the highest paid. I wish our district could be the highest paid in everything.
We
I
are in a lot,
I know.
but they were both very excited about it.
Okay, sounds
That
good.
was all.
All right, are we ready for 2C?
Yes, I believe you guys are going into exec session for that, and I am stepping out.
Not yet.
Oh,
I can introduce it. So basically, we brought, so Ben, you probably remember this. So there was a transition period when Jim left, and he left at the end of January. So then we had from February till July, where we discussed having Lindsay take on the role and kind of seeing how it goes and having her do the dual role, and that we have a couple employees that potentially in a year or two would be ready to potentially take that lead role. The other option we had looked at was a shared director of buildings and grounds with our partner schools. But when we started walking through that process, we realized that our team really does the role is really different in our different districts. Our team does a lot of things that they don't necessarily do in the other districts. So they needed the director for more. And it just wasn't fiscally, like, it didn't make sense for us. We would have ended up paying a lot more to share a director with the other districts. And it just didn't make sense. So then we talked as a board, and I don't remember if it was buildings and grounds, full board meeting, both, it could have been both, about revisiting then this summer to determine what the role would look like moving forward. So what you'll see in the board packet are a couple things. First one is just a job description for finance, business, and operations so that you can see that all together. Second one is just a leaflet, ironically, from WASBO, which is the Wisconsin Association of School Business Officials. So I was thinking ironically, that'd be almost like a DPI, right? For business officials that just maps out the roles and responsibilities for that position. And then the two things that I do have as executive content, just because they are salary and kind of evaluatory, but I brought to Buildings and Grounds was a survey that I did for the custodial staff on Lindsay's work so far. And I asked them 4 or 5 questions. So you have that information. They were able to rank, they were able to give some free form comments. So when we brought the information to B&G, really was determined by Tamika and Andy that, you know, based on the efficiencies, the job performance, fiscal responsibility, and overall staff satisfaction of how things are going, that we're going to continue with Lindsay as the director of operations and buildings and grounds in her new contract. So then my charge from B&G committee was to bring a job description and salary recommendation to F&P. So that would mean that all four board members have had a chance to put eyes on it, and then eventually bring the whole package to executive session prior to the next board meeting for a full board discussion. So basically what I'm asking for in exec today is I'm going to share the survey results, the salary recommendation, and then I'm looking for, similar to what you just did with the org chart, feedback, questions, so that I can make sure I have the information I need to have for the full board when I bring it back in at the end of the month.
Okay. Is there a motion to move into executive session?
Sure, so moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, so I'm going to stop the video. I'm going to put some people in a waiting room. Sorry, Katie, bye.
You can also stop recording, right?
Yeah. Yep. Okay, hold on.
I should have printed this stuff out. I'm gonna have to pull these documents up one at a time because I
That's okay.
continue to be easily confused. I'm gonna close the org chart.
Back to open.
All right, let me let these people back in. All right.
All right. Is there any visitor participation?
Oh, we lost Katie.
Oh, Katie.
All right. So then let's move on to 5A. And is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Have a good night, everyone.
Thanks, guys. You
Thanks,
too.
guys. Good to see all of
Thanks. Bye.
you. Good night.